boards plugging us into the middle. It's pretty cool. Long time ago.
Call this meeting to order. Are we, would you please take the roll call?
Director Baker,
Here.
Director Burris,
Present.
Director Case,
Here.
Director Foley,
Here.
Director Mindy and Torino,
Here.
Director Moore McClinday, Director Najib, Director Owen Moore,
Here.
and Director Punts.
Here. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes.
We have some special guests with us tonight, and so without objection, I'm going to take one matter out of the order of the agenda. Specifically, Dr. Cruz is going to introduce our women's volleyball team to us and tell us about some of their recent accomplishments.
Thank you, Chair Foley. Yes, it's my pleasure. Good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today and really to celebrate our volleyball team. They've made history this season. For the first time in MATC history, they won the Region 4 championship, which then, which entitled them to go to our first national championship tournament. This year was in Iowa. So let's give them a hand for making it to the national championship. I want to thank Coach Shell and the assistant coaches and our athletic director, Randy Casey, and others that really were part of, the guidance and mentorship that our volleyball team needed this season to get where they are. But I want to congratulate them. They really, I went to several of their matches and really enjoyed how many times they overcame a lot of adversity, came back in matches and won the most games or most matches in MATC history. So again, congratulations, ladies, for a job well done. Thank you, coaching staff, for an excellent job as well. We're very proud of you and everything you've accomplished this season. Looking forward to another prosperous season next year. Stand so we can acknowledge it.
We'll show you our hardware.
All right. All right. All right.
Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it, especially Dr. Cruz. We appreciate you being at our matches. I recognize you now when you're in the gyms. We need to sneak out then.
Sure. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Congratulations again.
Oh, and here.
That would be my kids for sure.
Did anybody need a snack? He eats all the time. Chips, candy, bars.
So what are the two pieces of hardware? You got the region 4, right?
Region 4 and District 8.
Nice.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Savannah's.
You guys want to go there with us? Yeah, you should go. Yeah, take a
Oh.
picture.
Oh, you should do.
Oh, was a photo.
Yeah,
Okay.
Everybody,
the board. The whole
yeah,
board.
the whole board.
Want us all there?
I want to scoot to the side.
I'm shorter than you. I know, I'm making a sure.
Squeeze it in a little more. All right. Big smiles, everyone.
3, 2, 1. Smile, one more. 3, 2, 1. Big smile. Love it.
All right. Those formers.
Guys, that'll go back to the office. Okay, why don't we grab all these stuff over here that's gotta go somewhere.
Or I think I got you, Valerie.
No.
No way.
Thank you so
What kind of
much.
shoes you got on? Yeah, flats. Take it off. It's like totally flat. I'm 5'6". I've been 5'6" since I was in 7th grade. See, I've been this since I was in.
I can't make 3
Fifth
inches.
grade.
of-
And I think you're in, it's 5th grade and I haven't lost any.
Oh, that's good.
At my age, that's like super fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, let's return to our regular agenda. Next, on the agenda is comments from the public. We have only one person signed up to address us from in the public comments today. Let me just make a reminder that negative public comments identifying specific personnel via name or position are not appropriate for presentation to the board in public session. Dennis Majewski. Majewski.
Kind of easy. MA like in mom, JEW like religion, and SKI is downhill. But that's a really tough act to follow. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Why don't you come up to the end of the table over here?
Sure. Obviously, I'm Ms. Majewski. I serve on the TV and video production and digital content advisory committee.
And you can sit down if you'd like to.
Oh, that's okay. It's not, I don't have that long. That's okay. Thank you kindly. Wisconsin law provides statutory recognition that this committee to advise on the curriculum, technology, and workforce relevance of the programs. I've been on the committee actually for 30 years. And I've served as a chairman for about 25 years. Our committee recently had our meeting this month, and student representatives brought to our attention the dwindling opportunities for them to participate in the productions of Milwaukee PBS programs, and perhaps actually more disturbing, a resistance to air the productions as part of their learning experience. The immediate concern is over Letters for Santa, a program that's been airing for over 50 years. Actually, one of the students on our committee said how thrilled he was to do the program because his father grew up watching Letters for Santa. Until recent years, the educational programs and the stations have had a solid learning and working relationship. There's been no station representation on our committee for over 2 years now. I wanted to bring the students, the faculties, and the committee's concern to your attention that the relationship is no longer participatory or collaborative. So thank you very much for listening. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of October 22, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Director Burris, is there a second?
Second.
Director Mendia Ramos. Any discussion, comments about the draft minutes? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the minutes and a second from Directors Burris and Mendia Ramos respectively. Would all those in favor indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Did you note the time when Director Najib came? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda items. May I have a motion for approval of all the consent agenda items, and then we can discuss whether anything in particular needs to be brought out.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Director Baker. Is there a second? Director Burris? First question is, are there any items that any member of the board wants to have taken out and discussed separately? Director Baker?
I have one quick question on, this is on the procurement report. Can I ask the question?
Well, let's just find out what the topic is, and then we'll figure out how we'll proceed, but
Procurement report software.
okay.
I
Did you-
want the procurement report discussed also.
Okay, same item or different item?
No, different item.
Okay, so let's pull the procurement report out. Is there anything else from the directors online?
No.
Okay. Director Pence, why don't you lead us off?
I'm trying to find it.
Same.
Class scheduling software,
Yes,
it's their second one.
is that
Yeah, right.
is that a continuation of what we already have? Is that correct?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yes.
Are you speaking about the Ad Astra?
Yeah,
Okay, yes, it is.
so we already have that and we're just continuing. Continuing that. Has has our cybersecurity IT people looked at this? Are they just asking for
Uh,
another reason?
Dr. King, do you have information about this, or who should we be asking?
They necessarily did, they're not sure if they, to your question, has our IT team done a review of the software related to cybersecurity? Was that your question?
Yeah, because of just relating to this particular software, are they okay with it?
I don't know if I've ever asked him that question.
From a subscription standpoint?
Yes.
We haven't done a recent review, we go back and look at terms and conditions and privacy statement. And it really comes down to, I guess, what information we're putting into it and the controls of it.
Okay.
Anything else, Director Pence? Director Baker?
Yeah, just one procedural thing. When we have people online, it's very difficult to hear unless the people in the audience come up to a microphone.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, there's two items that I'm concerned about in our procurements. And they are both to assist us with HR searches. There's a management search agency contract for $125,000. And there's an employment search firm for 62.7. And you know, it's $200,000. I'm concerned, like, I understand when we do contracts for things we don't do. But if we're contracting for work that we do, I need more of an explanation. To me, that doesn't make sense because we have personnel who do recruitment in a variety of areas. And if we're not doing a good enough job, do we need to train our personnel? Do we need to expand our personnel or whatever? But these struck me as odd.
I know that I'll speak to the 62 is the search firm. So the search firm one, I think for 62,000, the one you're referring to is, we've had two failed searches for that position in the last several months since I came on board. And so I consulted with Ms. Bonds and I decided to hire a firm to help us with that search. And the failed search is because, I'm sorry,
This is one position?
one position.
Okay, like a high ranking position.
It's the vice president of administration and operation.
I see, okay.
And so that position, because of the scope of that position and responsibilities of that position, we could not find a qualified applicant. And then even when we did, we found very few. So it was not a robust set of candidates in both searches. So I believe that this position is a very important position. It's one that's been vacant now. We kind of retooled it. So it used to be the vice president of finance, I believe. Retooled it and we'll have, and so we need to fill it, right? And so felt that the best way of doing that is to contract a search firm to do that. So that's still 62,000, maybe.
And the other one is specialized for public television. It says it's specialized for public television. So is that the same thing that we've been looking in public television?
I would have to have.
Yeah.
Yes,
maybe-
we have a field search for chief engineer 3 times. We had a chief content position, failed search twice. And the chief operations officer is a really important job. So those 3 are senior level positions. So one of the chief engineer who's in a temp status, he's been in that for 2 years.
And the search firm we've hired has a specialty in broadcasting or public broadcasting or
Yes.
something.
Any other questions about anything on the consent agenda items? Director Case, thank you.
Yeah, just to continue on that conversation, I also find it concerning, and this isn't necessarily a question, but I find it concerning that we've got 4 leadership positions that we don't have anybody internal that could succeed any of these positions. And in the PBS space, that's a significant amount of leadership positions. And I understand that there's a gap when people are retired and people have moved up, but I would like to see going forward for us to have some sort of succession plan or something, so we don't end up in a situation where we have 4 leadership positions that we have nobody that can fill. I think that's a concern from my perspective.
Any other? Let me just finish online. Any other comments or questions from the board members online?
None for me, thank you.
Director Burris?
I think my question is related, but somehow not related. Are we tracking how much we're spending on, like search firms year over year?
We don't use them that often, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
We don't use the search firms that often.
Like, how often do we use them?
I don't know, I would have to maybe Ellie respond.
Mostly for our executive level positions. So the last time we used them was, I think, when we hired our executive vice president, and then also the vice president of enrollment was a failed search, so we used them for that too. So maybe, what has it been over a year now? 2 years? 16 months?
Yeah.
The last time we used this.
And mine.
Now, of course, the US.
Yeah, right.
I think since then, there's only been these are the 2 since I've been here. That's okay.
I guess so. Are we re-looking at how we're doing our original searches internally before hiring a search firm? Because it sounds like everyone that you guys have done with several of these high-ranking positions have been failed searches. So is there like some pointers that we can take from somewhere else so we can do a better job of doing it without having to hire search
I don't
firms?
think we have the in-house expertise for executive search. I mean, that's a specific niche, which is why we outsource when we have those failed searches, but we have expanded our posting and our reach, but.
Before we go any further, what we are discussing consent agenda items, not policy decisions at this point. So if there's some new business we should be looking at in that area, we should address it next time around. But if you've got one question.
It was just a
Please.
question. Do we initially, when we do these high ranking positions, do we try to do it ourselves at the beginning?
Most of them.
Most of the time?
Yes.
So perhaps we should just try a certain firm moving forward. Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items and a second from Directors Baker and Burris respectively. Any further discussion before we vote? All right, would all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda items indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. Next on the agenda are the board action items. First is resolution FO 338-11-24, authorizing the sale of $1.5 million of general obligation promissory notes, series 2024-2025F of Milwaukee Area Technical College. Mr. Fisher, Justin Fisher from Baird, would you please tell us about the sale?
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. So this morning we went out for the sale for the 2024-2020.
Excuse me, I forgot. We should ask for a motion in a second before we proceed. Is there a motion to approve the sale?
Mr. Chair, I will move resolution FO 338-11-24.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Directors Baker and Burris. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. So if you look at your presentation packet, I'll run through that. If there's any questions, please let me know. So this morning we went out for the sale at 9:30 this morning and received 5 bids. We received 5 bids last time as well. So kind of getting back to the norm, which is good to see. The final interest rate, the low bid, was by Fidelity Capital Markets at a 2.92%. Last month, we were at a 2.93%, so pretty consistent from month over month. And then you can kind of see the different bids that came in there, so a little bit was quite a bit better than what we've seen from the market, so it was nice to get that aggressive bid in the marketplace this morning. If we go to page 3, the summary of this financing. General obligation promissory notes, this is the series F in the amount of $1,500,000. This is going to close December 12th of 2024. Maturity is June 1, 2026 to 29, with the first interest being June 1 of 2025. It is non-callable, and the rating received by Moody's was a AA1, which is affirming what the district has had in the past. And then again, a little bit of 2.92 by Fidelity. Page 4, this is the long-term financing plan. So one issuance left in 2024, and then we kind of go over it into the next calendar year here. But you know, when we look at the long-term plan, everything continues to be on track. We continue to be less than projections. So everything is looking good, and working with Eva and her team, we're all on track for next year to kick off. The last several pages is the rating action by Moody's. Nothing's really changed in this report from last month. But if there's any questions, please let me know. So congratulations.
Are there any questions from the directors online?
No.
Any questions in the room? All right, we have a motion by Director Baker and a second by Director Burris. Would you please call the roll?
Director Burris,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Ramos,
Aye.
Director Mormon-Kunde,
Aye.
Director Najib,
Aye.
Director Owen Moore,
Aye.
Director Pence,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, the resolution passes. Next is resolution FO 339-11-24, authorizing the issuance of $1.5 million in general obligation promissory notes, series 2024-2025 G of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion to approve the authorization of the next sale?
Somewhere.
Aye.
My job.
Yeah, my
Director
God.
Pence, is there a second?
Second.
Somebody should flip for it.
Any questions or discussion about this resolution from the directors in the room? How about the directors online?
Nope.
Anything special we need to know about this one? All right, we have a motion by Director Pence and a second by Director Baker to approve resolution FO 339-11-24. Would you please call the roll?
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Ramos,
Aye.
Director Mormon-Kunde,
Aye.
Director Najib,
Aye.
Director Owen Moore,
Aye.
Director Pence,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Burris,
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, resolution passes.
Thank you. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is resolution FO 340-111-24 to approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 annual budget amendment. Chief Financial Officer Eva Keither, would you please tell us what this is about? And before you start, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Director Najib. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Mendia Ramos.
Got beat out.
No, that's okay. I was just kind of raising my hand to remind him.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So we're starting with, you have these documents before you were looking at the general fund. So in looking at this document, just be mindful that the top portion of the document summarizes our funding sources, and that second section summarizes our funding uses. Typically, it's revenue and expense. So we are amending our general fund operating budget to increase our operating revenue. And you can see that under that very first row there, other institutional. This increase is primarily consisting of interest income revenue that exceeded our operating budget. The other source piece, where we are amending our operating budget, other sources to reflect our anticipating operating deficit of 2.698 million. This other source is our fund balance, and specifically $2.2 million of the strategic reserves are sitting in our fund balance, which we had planned to use this year to cover student debt. And we've had at least a couple of conversations about that. So again, we need to indicate this in our reporting with the state as an other source, but it comes from our fund balance and it's planned spend. It's the spend that came from the HERF funding, the COVID relief funding. The remaining 698,000 represents the amount which we will be spending down our fund balance, which primarily reflects our exorbitant health costs this year, which I've also brought to your attention. Okay, so essentially then if you can see that we have $6.6 million of additional source, and the source will cover below. If you look at our expenditures, it's the way that we report this, we report it by functional area, but what is included in that $6.8 million below is the 2 million of planned spend to cover our student bad debt, approximately $3 million, and that crosses over multiple functional areas of our health costs that have exceeded our operating budget, and then near approximately 2 million of salary costs that have exceeded our operating budget. So, and as I mentioned, our auditors are currently preparing to issue our FY24 draft, and they are reporting an operating deficit of about 2.7 million. We planned on 2 million. The 0.7 million is our health costs, and we were able to cover those costs. We at one point during this year, we talked about possibly drawing from our OPEB trust. We did not have to do that. We were able to have that interest income, which we're amending our budget for. And then in addition to that, we had our health insurance fund. It's a separate fund, accumulated some surplus that we were able to use to offset those health insurance costs. So we did not have to draw from our OPEB fund, and we were very happy about that, and still coming less than 0.5% within our budget. So we're really pleased due to strategic and very focused planning that we were able to get to a moderate deficit. If there are any questions about the general fund amendments that I just shared? Oh, I wanted to talk about the OPEB reclass. That's kind of confusing. Does anybody have any questions? This is a standard. Okay, I can
Just one
explain.
second.
Oh, just before you move on, okay, so there were just two things I got lost in. One, you talked about a $6.8 million deficit, and I just can't find that. Well, we did not, I mean, we did not, we're not reporting a $6.8 million deficit. Or there was a 6.8 number.
It's
Yes.
$6,685,924.
Okay.
Why don't you explain what that number is?
That's the number we're talking about, the 6.7 there? Okay.
So you're saying, yeah, the $6.6 million that you're seeing as the total of the sources and the expenditures, that's basically reflecting the total of our sources, additional sources. So we got received additional interest income, and we also were able to use $2 million of strategic reviews or strategic reserves.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the fact that these are in parentheses as negative numbers is an accounting
Interesting.
thing, not meaning it's a deficit.
Right, so, yeah, that's how.
It's a negative
So it
number
is-
in a negative account, essentially.
Right, so our revenues did go up, but it's showing in brackets, and that's how we report it. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It was that, I think the other thing I heard wrong.
Okay.
Any other questions about resolution F? I never know if it's O or 0. Is it F?
I'm not sure.
Well, FO 340-111-24. Anything further on that one? Anyone online? Not seeing any hand? Okay, it has been moved, approval has been moved by Director Najib and seconded by Director Mendieta Ramos. Would you please call the roll?
Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
Director Mormon-Conde.
Aye.
Director Najib.
Aye.
Director Owen Moore.
Aye.
Director Pence.
Aye.
Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Burris.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, resolution passes. Next is resolution F 341 11 24 to approve the fiscal year 2024 2025 annual budget amendment. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Director Baker.
Second, just a second. She stated that she wanted to address something. Was that still under the one we just approved or?
Is it, or is it under the next one?
I was just gonna mention.
Thank you, Director Burris.
Another FY 24 very nominal amendment that's on page 2 of your FY 24 packet. We're amending our bookstore budget, basically our enterprise non-PBS enterprise unit. And really just adding funding needed for inclusive access. It's a net neutral budget amendment, so we're adding resources and we're adding expense. So it's pretty non-impactful.
And I'm sorry, where is that?
It's on page 2 of your FY 20.
It's this page.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. It's the auxiliary revenues and services.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, we have a motion to approve resolution FO 341 11 24 to approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 annual budget amendment. Is there a second for that motion?
A second.
Thank you, Director Najib. All right.
So, again, starting with the general fund, what you see listed here is multiple funding sources, and essentially we're syncing up our budgets to provide accurate, up-to-date appropriations for these multiple funding sources. We received our finalized aggregate net new construction data and equalized valuation data from Department of Revenue. And this amendment really just allows us to precisely predict these other sources of state aid and tax levy. We do have a new source of state aid this year. It's under Act 12, personal property aid, and it's additional property aid that we're going to be receiving due to additional property tax exemptions this was designed to reimburse municipalities for lost personal property tax aid, and this is going to be a recurring funding source. But other than that, basically, we're truing up these numbers. We budgeted all of them in June. And now that these reports have come out from the Department of Revenue, giving us actual numbers, we're truing up our numbers.
Any questions about this resolution? Anyone online? Raise a hand. Not seeing any. We have a motion by Director Baker and a second by Dr. Najib to approve resolution FO 341 11 24 to approve fiscal year 2024-25 annual budget amendment. Would you please take the roll?
Mr. Chairman, before we continue, could you briefly explain Act 12?
Sure. So as I kind of briefly explained a minute ago, Act 12 was, there was a program designed at the state level to replace lost revenue from property tax with another aid payment from the state. And so it's an amount that it's recurring. It represents a new funding source that we will receive each year. So does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Director Mormon-Conde.
Aye.
Director Najib.
Aye.
Director Owen Moore.
Aye.
Director Pence.
Aye.
Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Burris.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye, resolution passes. Next is resolution F 342 11 24 to approve the presidential evaluation instrument. Part A. Is there a motion to approve?
I first of all have a question and or.
We gotta get the motion on the table first.
Oh, then I'll. A motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Director Pence.
Okay, I was just reading through this. I thought we would there was under fiscal management number 13, I added just a few notes. And I'm wondering if that is appropriate to add it to this document.
Yes, do we have, where do we have?
Should be off their seats. There's a single.
We're missing a page.
Yeah, we have one page. It was attached to the agenda, the original.
Right.
And this is just his changing up to me.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, got it.
I am
13. Yeah,
So this is
so
in
13
addition
is
to
your
the-
change.
Yes, the
Got
red, the thing in red.
For the record, I think we should.
Yes, and I think we should have it as a proposed amendment. So I would entertain a motion to amend the draft.
I'd like to amend the draft.
Why don't you read the language and indicate where you would like it to be?
Ensure meaningful strategic internal and external audits are conducted and acted upon to help the college maintain accreditation standards and follow state statutes as applicable.
The fiscal management.
Is that something I should?
Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Too late. So we have motion from Director Pence to amend the proposed form of the evaluation instrument. And Director Burris has seconded it. Would you like to give us a quick explanation of why you want to make that amendment?
This will be, there's some other things in my treasurer's report about an audit follow-up that hasn't been happening, for one thing. And we can talk about that a little later, but that was part of this accreditation. What was the other part? It's somebody needs to be accountable for compliance, basically. We do audit, but it doesn't seem like we have any written vehicle to do the compliance piece was just the thought. So.
Yeah. Any questions or comments from any board member in the room? Any questions or comments from board members online?
No.
No. Director Case?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so are there any other proposed amendments to the document that was circulated? All right, so we have to do this in two steps. The first would be a vote on the motion to amend. We have a motion by Director Pence and a second by Director Burris. Would all those in favor of making this amendment to the proposed document indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Director Baker, you have an issue?
Yeah, I think I'm just slow tonight, but can I back up and ask one question on this? I've been trying to digest what's different in it than the original statement, which is just more general, and it does get more specific. It does say internal and external instead of just saying audits. But it specifically says accreditation standards and state statutes. It doesn't talk about accounting standards. It doesn't talk about federal law. It doesn't talk about other things that we are also, that we keep an eye on and that our audits. I mean, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of having to list all sorts of things, but is it intentional that it's talks about those two things?
For me, it's intentional for the audit follow-up. That's where I noticed the deficiency.
Right, so but about accreditation standards and state statutes.
Mhm. That is kind of, there is some state statutes, correct me if I'm wrong. There is some state statutes within the audit area that we look at and are responsible for.
Would it be appropriate to address your concern by changing it to say to help the college maintain accreditation standards and follow applicable law?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to get to compliance issues with
Right.
the accreditation standards. And compliance issues there's also a lot of federal things that we could be auditing for. I'm just, I'm not sure how specific we need to be. And I also don't want to spend a lot of time on something we don't need to spend a lot of time on, but I was just trying to digest why this particular couple of things.
I think what he was stating, if I may, Chair, was that being on the audit committee, he has like a new lens into that particular area. So yeah, he doesn't want to get specific on things that you're not sure about, but these things have crossed his path. He just want to ensure that it's added. So I understand what you're saying, that you don't want to have a laundry list of it equally. So maybe we find
But you don't want to
wording that's in
exclude
the
anything.
middle.
You don't want to exclude anything federal either.
Should I follow up? And
Sure.
Because the committee that was looking at sort of financial oversight, we did have a bunch of conversation about compliance issues and how the college does compliance, how we use our internal audits, how the internal audits are followed up or not followed up on it. So I'm reflecting on some of that conversation, but I'm fine with this language. We don't have to do anything else. And I just think that as we go through the review, when we do, if we have additional questions, I don't think this language needs to limit us. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions about the proposed amendment? All right, all those in favor of the proposed amendment to the original document, would you please indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, the amendment is adopted. Now we have a motion to approve the instrument as amended from Director Pence. And the second was by. Don't recall who did the second.
Me.
Director Mendieta Ramos, thank you. Is there any further discussion about the motion to adopt this instrument as amended in the room? Online?
No.
There being none, would all those in favor of the motion to approve the amended instrument indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, the motion passes. Thank you. Next is a first read of a policy review, the credit for prior learning and experience. Would Sherry Terrell Webb please come up and tell us what this is about?
So this is the first read coming before the board. You will note that what is given to you as a clean version is relatively short compared to the original policy. That is because we did a review and determined that there was a lot of information in there that was procedure. How a student would get credit for prior learning, not necessarily from a board level, what is our policy around credit for prior learning. And so this is a document that you will review with that in view, that we're eliminated the procedure and is essentially just the policy.
Are there any questions, Director Burks?
So if we're changing the policy to just be policy and not the procedure, is the procedure listed somewhere else now?
The procedures on the administrative procedures portal.
Great.
Anything else in the room, Director Baker?
Yeah, and so my only thing is, in the old policy, which I agree, sounded a lot like a procedure. There is this whole thing about the review and appeal that students, so I assume that is now in the procedure.
Yes.
Would the administration mind sharing the procedure with us just so we can see what that looks like? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Before we approve it next time?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Any comments or questions from the board members online? All right. We don't need to take any action. All right, thank you. Next, our monthly reports. Catch up here for a second. From the chair's report, first is a reminder to board members that the MATC winter commencement will be held on Saturday, December 14th at the Fiserv Forum beginning at 11 a.m. If you've indicated to Beth, that you will be participating, logistics will be shared about a week prior to the event. Second, gingerbread house competition. MATC's culinary and baking standards will be showcasing their annual gingerbread house competition in the Create Gallery from November 26 to December 4. Houses will be displayed in the Create Gallery until December 4, when they will be moved to the Milwaukee Public Market for final showcase to the public. Awards ceremony will take place on Wednesday, December 11th at 6:30 p.m. at the Milwaukee Public Market. Next is there are two events coming up related to the Wisconsin Technical College District Boards Association. The first is that on January 15th and 16th, the association will be helping us prepare for and helping us conduct visits with our state representatives in Madison. If you are interested in participating, I guess we'll let Beth collect that information, and the details will be forthcoming, but there is some training at the beginning, and then the next day is the actual visits. The District Boards Association will also be sponsoring an ACCT presentation on governance leadership, called the Governance Leadership Institute. That's what the GLI refers to when you see shorthand references to it. And that will be on January 17th at the Concourse Hotel in Madison. That requires registration. I would encourage any and all of you to attend, all the board members. I have seen two other presentations by ACCT when they come out and do these programs for multiple colleges, and they have been uniformly excellent. And the proper balance between board governance and participation in management will be discussed at some length. Third, Director Pence and I attended the ACCT annual conference in Seattle a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to ask Dr. Pence to give us his thoughts.
I thought it was a very well done event. The speakers were really good. There was a lot of things on board governance. We broke out into little mini boards and had test cases type of things and some of the board governance things. I spent my time at a lot of the workforce and apprenticeship areas. It seems to be a trend that everybody is going through right now. There was a lot of partnering with businesses that have specific needs for curriculum that each one of the schools was addressing. And it's good to see a swath. There was 1,800 people there. It was good to see a swath of other, community colleges around the country handle different things. So it was worthwhile, and I kept marking mine.
That's the reason he had to go. Thank you, Director Pence. There were, I think the number was 63 people from Wisconsin Technical College boards there. There were several presentations by Wisconsin Technical Colleges. I think we had the third largest number of presentations after Texas, and I forgot who else was in there. So we're having an impact on this organization, and they very much want us to participate. Hence the program they're bringing to us in January. So I would encourage you to participate in that. I believe that the ACCT president himself is going to come and participate in the presentation in January. And we can look at others attending the ACCT National Conference next year. In the first quarter of 2025, there will also be an ACCT sponsored program to educate ourselves about whatever is in the legislative hopper at that time, and to go to Washington, D.C. to educate our representatives about why those issues are important to us and how we'd like to see them resolved. So look for further updates about that later on. And Director Pence, you've done that once, right? You've not done that yet.
I have not done that.
You have not done that yet. Okay.
I've done it many
Baker,
times.
you've done it many times.
It's a really interesting, very informative conference.
Director Moore,
They do a good job.
What are the dates for the ACCT in Madison again?
The
15 and 16.
That's 15 and 16.
15th and 16th.
I thought that was different from the advocacy times. Okay.
Okay. All right, next is the president's report.
Thank you, Chair Foley. I want to continue by highlighting some of our amazing students. We just had the volleyball team here a little while ago. I want to continue on that path and highlight Zania Joshua. She is the editor-in-chief of the MATC Times. And not only she is a dedicated Associate of Science degree program student, but she's also remarkably one of 9 students who has been selected or nominated for 2024 Reporter of the Year award by the Associated Collegiate Press. So I want to congratulate Zania for that well-deserved honor, and hopefully she will be selected as the person. But again, very great thing to have one of our students, particularly the heads up of the student newspaper, recognized in that way. Another outstanding student is Kimberly Wright Adams. She's a second-year student in our baking and pastry arts program, and an also member of the Pastry Arts Advisory Board. And she owns her own, she's the owner of Signature Sweets. And she was recently showcased on Food Network's baking competition called Wizards of Baking. If you haven't seen this yet, you should really go on to Food Network and watch it. She'll be on there, I think, for a little bit longer. She advanced from the first show into, I think, some other shows going on as she advances in that competition. I was honored to be part of the watch party where we had, they had, I don't know, she had friends, family, students there, faculty that joined in the watch party to watch her on the show as we watched it. It was pretty interesting. She was all dressed in her Harry Potter regalia as part of the Wizards of Baking. So very interesting show. Again, another outstanding student making a mark in the community and also in the nation by being part of that show. We also want to highlight a lead faculty member, Karen Feliciano. She's a lead faculty member in the welding department and has been honored as the Women in the Construction Educator of the Year by the Daily Reporter. And so I want to congratulate her. Karen started as our bilingual welding program in 2022. So congratulations to instructor Feliciano on that honor. We also had on October 24th, MATC's Oak Creek campus hosted the Heavy Metal Tour. I think we've done this for a couple of years, right? The Heavy Metal Tour, and nearly 150 high school students attended to learn about careers in manufacturing. And the event was sponsored in part by All Within My Hands, a nonprofit established by the members and management of the rock band Metallica. That's why it's called the Heavy Metal Tour. And to support advanced careers in heavy metal manufacturing fields. To date, the college has awarded 80 scholarships the students that have participated in that. We also have recently the college received a very an honor. We went to Salute to Local Government Award on November 13th. I was joined by Superintendent Galvan and by Chancellor Moni. And we represented M Cubed at this award ceremony. And we won the Wisconsin Public Policies Forum's Award for Intergovernmental Cooperation at the forum's 32nd annual Salute to Local Government event. Again, this program now has been going on for about 10 years. M Cubed is really changing the landscape as to how we collaborate between the three largest public educational institutions in the Milwaukee area. And not only are we, there's so many things happening through direct admit, summer program, and other things that are happening, definitely making it easier and more accessible for students throughout the Milwaukee area to access higher education after they complete high school through MPS. On November 18th, I had the honor of celebrating with many other individuals at the Walker Square 36 of our MATC students who became U.S. citizens in the new Citizen Recognition and Resource Fair at Walker Square. I was joined by our Mayor Johnson, community partners, MATC administration, to really celebrate the achievements of these individuals that have taken, it's been a very long journey for them to become U.S. citizens, but now they're U.S. citizens. We emphasize the importance of voting, being civically engaged, and we really enjoyed the comments by the mayor and others that joined in the festivities. I want to thank Veronica Torres and Annette Velez and all others that made this event a very successful community engagement event and celebration. On November 19th, we celebrated the completion of the 1-year anniversary of the Electrical Power Distribution Line Mechanic Technical Training Program in Milwaukee's Metcalf Park neighborhood. And this is a great collaboration between the college, We Energies, and the city to really bring that type of educational program to where people need it and right into the neighborhood. One of the biggest things it does, it's diversified the program. We do have that program at our MEC1 campus as well. But by having this program, and we're looking at having several other cohorts join this program, it's a 30 credit program, 1-year program. We know that students, as soon as they finish these programs, they have a job. And it's great to be in that Metcalf Park neighborhood. And we had several individuals, including the mayor and other individuals, speak on the importance of this collaboration and making sure that we're growing these types of opportunities throughout Milwaukee for our residents. I want to also recognize our very own Laura Bray, Vice President of College Advancement, External Communications, and Executive Director of MATC Foundation. She's been selected by the Milwaukee Magazine as a Betty Awards winner. And Betty Awards recognize dynamic female leaders, just like Laura, who exemplify the characteristics of Milwaukee Magazine's founding publisher, the late Betty Quadracci. Got that right? Ms. Bray will be recognized at the Bridge Builder honor as a Bridge Builder honoree at the December 5th award ceremony. So let's congratulate Laura on that great accomplishment. On November 12th, I enjoyed a really robust fireside chat with our Black Affinity Group of employees. So it's the Black Excellent Leadership Alliance Affinity Group, also known as BELA. Great conversation that I had. It was, we had some individuals in the room as well as it was broadcast virtually, and had some great questions and great engagement on that, and hope to continue having those types of conversations and engagement to understand what individuals are thinking and making myself more accessible and listening more to what's going on at the college. Just last week, I had my 100th day here at the college, and I had my 100-day address. The address was, I was here physically Downtown campus, we had probably over 100 people attend here physically, and we also had it simulcast at the different campuses and watch parties on each of our campuses and our center at Walker Square. And I had some time to reflect on my first 100 days. And one thing that I wanted to emphasize to everyone, obviously, as we continue to improve the culture here at the institution, is to try to build a culture with the foundation of equity and excellence. And there are several things that are happening already and have happening for the last several years, including our DEI plan. But I also mentioned in the 100-day address a few things that I think that we're going to be working on as an administration in the short term. I think to address many things that are going on, again, to improve the climate and to provide better support systems for our employees. One thing will be that we'll use our We Care standards to formally recognize winners quarterly with a presidential gathering, and then more regularly in other types of communication. So we know we have a lot of great employees here at the college that do wonderful things. We want to make sure that we are recognizing them as much as we can to make sure that they understand how much they're valued, and then, show as a great role models for other individuals. Another action that's going to be taken is, we launched restorative practices in September. Since then, we've had over 100 individuals participate in restorative practice conversations and discussions, and we'll continue to do that. One of them was actually with the president's cabinet. And what we're going to do going forward is, in the new year, is that all leaders will be required to participate in these sessions in 2025. And that's as soon as January rolls around and we get new sessions scheduled, we're going to have it's still going to be open to all employees, but it will be required for all leaders. And third, because we want to continue to improve the processes that we have here at the college and effectiveness, we're looking at some human resource processes, two things that have been newly improved, but we want to make sure that we're doing them right. And so we're going to be looking at how the college handles employee complaints and how we recruit and promote employees. And we will be hiring a outside firm to do an evaluation of both of those processes to see if we're on the right track, and if we're not, what things that we can put into place to make those processes more equitable and better for all employees. Going on to the enrollment update, we're well into our registration process for the spring semester, and we're doing very well. At this point, we are about 48% on the way to 100% of our full enrollment. If you compare it to last year at the same time, we were at 43% last year. So we're about 5% up from where we were last year, which is really mirroring what we did for the fall semester, right? We were up about 6%. So we're about 5% up right now from where we were last year. So that's really great to see our enrollment continue to increase and serving more students as we do that. I do also want to mention and want to address last board meeting, there were some comments made about bilingual education. And I wanted to make sure that the board was up to speed as to what the administration, and give you like an overview, very brief overview of what's going on with bilingual education at the college. As you know, we've been serving students through bilingual education since about 2015. And every year since 2015, the number of bilingual education sections has increased. This year is no different. It's about the same as it was last year for the fall. Every spring, it's also increased as well. For example, this fall, we had 117 course sections scheduled for bilingual education. Again, so just from looking at those numbers, there really hasn't been any movement or any intention by the administration to cut or eliminate bilingual education sections. Actually, we've been looking at ways that we can increase those sections to make sure that we're serving the students that need those courses. And to make sure that we're doing that, we know that it's essential that those courses are taught by individuals who are bilingual themselves. But we have found some difficulty in finding individuals to meet the demand, right? So we have a lot of the sections, like I said, 117 sections. All sections this fall were not taught by individuals who are bilingual. 76% were taught by individuals that were bilingual. We will continue to work on ways that we can continue to improve the recruitment of individuals who are bilingual so we can increase that percentage. It's not perfect. There needs improvement, but we are working on that. But we are making sure that we're putting in support systems for students in order in those sections that are being taught by individuals who are not bilingual. One thing is that we have a translation service that's built into our learning management system. And so that actually is in 16 languages, not just in Spanish, but in 16 languages. So any types of course materials that are provided on Blackboard are provided with a translation service so that students will be able to read it in their native language. In addition to that, all syllabi are provided in both languages. And also, when possible, we assign educational assistants from our bilingual education office to assist students in these courses. So we are not where we need to be, but we are definitely, I believe that we are serving the needs of our students, and we know that we need to continue to do that and increase the percentage to get as close as possible to that 100%. But we are providing services that address some of the needs, especially and one of the main things about bilingual education is we want to make sure that students not only are getting this service of having the bilingual, but ultimately is about strengthening their English language skills and their ability to do coursework in English. So it's not just about saying, okay, it's more about how do we get students, over time that maybe they will say, hey, I don't need the bilingual education course anymore. And that would be okay. And if they do, they'll still have those courses. But that is the main thrust of having those bilingual education courses, is to get students more advanced in the English language and be able to take other courses in the future. So that concludes my report. I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and give thanks to our board for their commitment to our college. I want to thank our faculty and staff and especially our students that are at the core of our mission for everything that we do. I hope that everybody has a wonderful holiday. Please enjoy with friends and family. Thank you. And take care. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions in the room?
Yes, I have a comment.
Director Najib.
I'm just wondering, listening to Dr. Cruz about how many success stories we have here. And I'm just wondering if there's any other way to make sure that this success story reach the public in general. And one thing that we have a TV station. I don't know if there's some program we can have for those special stories so we can spread the news.
We can. I see them on social media.
We can definitely work on getting that.
Any other questions online? Any questions in the room? Director Baker.
Yeah, so just, I know that there are resources in bilingual education community. There is a Wisconsin Association of Bilingual Educators, for instance, and I don't know if we're connected to all of those, but I know I connected folks to the UW School of Ed. There's a professor who specializes in sort of education and training of bilingual educators. So I know that there are some resources, and if I'm happy to share more connections with those.
That'd be great.
My days in here.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Great. Thank you, Dr. Cruz.
Thank you.
Next is our treasurer's report, Director Pence.
How do I follow that?
Better be good. That's all I got to say.
Briefly.
You better throw in some student success stories in there. Your numbers.
Lauren said briefly.
Okay, I'm gonna be super brief. The Audit Advisory Committee met on November 6th. Baker Tilly is our external finance and audit partner. Our audits are in progress. They were behind schedule due to working through turnover at MATC and delays in receiving actual reports from third parties, not us. We're on task. No material weakness or significant deficiencies have been noted, and they anticipate completing and issuing the report in December, and I believe we see that as a board. They anticipate issuing an unmodified opinion. And that's kind of how that part of it went. Risk assessment, Brian, went through a risk assessment plan in our meeting. And identified top 3 risk assessment areas not on the audit plan. Were also discussed that included culture, fiscal, budget management, and compliance. There was added to the list was a draft of program viability review that will be put through the ringer basically in the plan. There was one mention of internal audit also observed current process as written at Pathway personnel and faculty were responsible for assessing and recommending continuation or discontinuation of the program session. These evaluators had a vested interest in continuing programs, so it's an inherent conflict of interest. It was recommended that as the new processes develop, the evaluators of said instructional programs include neutral and or external voices to avoid this conflict and improve transparency. I guess another thing I noticed ACCT was there was a lot of talk about advisory, getting outside advisory committee, input on different things. We went through the audit follow-up report, and that's what came to the audit follow-up report. We have 18 open items. I really want, I don't know, as a business owner, I'd like to see some of these get taken off the list. Over time, it seems like we have a lot of things that have sat for a while. There's example cash handling. There's credit card readers that have taken about 3 years to put credit card readers in. And again, there's a lot of talk on Zansel and stipend reviews in this document. I'd like to get this document to where it's a good working document. I'd like to see this be something that could be used internally, and we could also hand the committee that is supposed to be looking at this report, which is, I don't believe it's been done. We talked a lot about cybersecurity in the meeting. There's a lot of recommendations going along. And that's the advisory audit committee update. On a more positive note, move on to the 2 investment trusts, the FCC and the OPEB. Eva's team and myself met with EFM, the investment facilitator, and we got some pretty strong returns. They're in your packets. The quarter, for both accounts turned in about 5%, which is really good. We talked a lot about how the investments work and how they plan things out without making too many recommendations and let them handle it. With that and with our decrease in fees that I think I mentioned a couple of months ago. We really had a good quarter with those 2 items. We are going to dive. I want to dive more into the policies for the OPEB. The FCC is a state statute, correct? And and then I was asked to look at some of the notes on being the board treasurer, so I will be doing that. And I am thankful for the A team and my friends over here that have helped me learn all this in a very short time and look through the financial statements and getting me up and running. So that's it. And a happy Thanksgiving.
Excellent report.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Pence? Any questions online for Director Pence?
No, thank you for your work on all that.
Thank you. Next is the legislative matters update.
Okay,
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Good to see all of you in person. Normally, as you know, I have a written report for most of these meetings, and I will have that starting in January when our state legislature is back in session. We had an election just a few weeks ago. It feels like a few months ago, actually, at this point. Happy to, answer any questions specific to that, but I wanted to provide just an overview of what we might expect, particularly at the state level as we head into 2025. In November at the state level, the legislature was controlled with very strong majorities by the Republican Party, supermajority in the state Senate, and a near supermajority in the state assembly. That majority has changed. So coming into 2025, we're going to see more narrow majorities, which will certainly impact what may or may not get done in the next legislative session. So even though top of the ticket split, we saw a different outcome at the bottom of the ticket down the ballot. Wisconsin is still very much a purple state with, usually 30,000 people, it seems, deciding elections at the top of the ticket. So we'll start 2025, 1815 Republican controlled in the state Senate, 54-45 in the state assembly. Right now, all four caucuses have met. They've selected their leadership teams for the 25-26 session. And now leadership, the majority party, will determine the committee structure and committee chairs and the committee assignments. Once that is complete, typically toward the end of the year, we'll have a sense of who will be on the powerful Joint Finance Committee, and that, of course, is where all of our general aid gets routed through, et cetera. Also, the structure of the standing committees. There are some statutorily required committees like the Finance Committee. Standing committees can change. So typically we do have a higher education or a technical college focused standing committee that could be combined with others. We had a number of retirements in the state legislature. So approximately 1/3 of the state assembly, brand new people. That body is generally relatively young anyway. We have a lot of sophomore and juniors, I think, in the state assembly, but lots of new faces to get to know, particularly in our region as well, both Republicans and Democrats. And so again, we'll see a very different body, but also a very different committee structure. So with that comes challenges and opportunities, of course. In the state Senate, we're going to be working with an 1815 Republican majority, more narrow majority there than what we've seen in the past. Again, those committee assignments will be coming out here in the next few weeks. So we'll have a better sense of who will chair the various committees that we've had to interface with in prior sessions. Right now, the administration is working on their budget recommendation, which will be delivered to the legislature in February. We often work in partnership, of course, with our District Boards Association. Once the governor introduces his budget recommendation, then the legislature will review that and make their determinations on that budget document. Certainly, I think we'll see a lot of discussion, deliberation on tax policy, probably very early in the session, perhaps even prior to that budget recommendation, which could very much set the tone moving forward during the budget process. So budget, first and foremost, will be something very specific to the college and all colleges. We had been monitoring also a study committee on the UW system. The Wisconsin Technical College System is represented on that committee. The committee has produced a number of proposals. I don't think any of them have come out unanimously thus far, specific to governance, bonding, spinning off, the flagship campus, UW-Madison from system, general aid, enrollment, et cetera. I think that will be very much a topic that we're going to see a lot of energy on next session. And it's important for us and all of our college partners to be engaged and aware of that process in the event they go beyond UW system if consensus can be reached there. I don't have any predictions or assumptions or anything specific to the federal government. We'll see, right? You know, lots of change there. But I think, you know, lots of change. There could be some opportunities. We heard earlier, you know, this focus on technical education, the trades, et cetera. So I'd like to hope that there is some opportunity for general aid for technical colleges moving into the next cycle. Also looking at policy on rehired annuitants, there could be some new opportunities on that policy that would provide some flexibility for entities like us and others to hire individuals who are retired annuitants in our state retirement system. That has been a challenge at times because they have to give up their pension if they work full time. So there's been a lot of effort to try to look at that policy to provide some relief for municipalities, counties, colleges, public education entities, so that they can recruit and retain from that pool as well as they look to fill workforce shortages. So with that, happy to take any questions, comments, again, just very high level. It'll be a very busy next session. A lot could get done. It could be gridlock, you know, we'll see. But once we get that committee structure in place and see what the state budget recommendation will look like, we'll have a good sense of how we need to respond and what we should prioritize and focus on. But I think, you know, number one priority is getting to know the many, many new legislators that we have representing us in the state of Wisconsin. And with that, my report's concluded.
Thank you. Any questions in the room?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any recurring or returning topics that you think that you can more concretely state that you will see in this upcoming session that we should be aware of?
So I think at the top of that list will be what we fought off and defended last session, which was specific to eliminating our ability to levy. That was something that was on the table for one house. It would have been very detrimental had that actually moved through the process and been signed into law. As you know, we have, you know, multiple silos of how, you know, the college is able to receive resources, and that levy authority is one of them. And there has been conversations, proposals to eliminate that as a mechanism to hold down property taxes. So then that would make us very reliant on general aid, which, you know, does not give us the flexibility to respond to employer needs, among other things at the local level. So I think that is something we could potentially see again, especially as elected officials look to tax policy in general, whether it be income tax or property taxes. There have been a lot of referendums that we've seen pass. I could go on and on about formulas and why we have referendums, but I think there's a lot of pressure to look at property taxes and income taxes. So that for sure. The Nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau is expected to complete its report winter of 2025. So assuming that's sometime yet this year. They were directed by the audit committee at the state level, the Joint Audit Committee, to look at DEI related provisions in state agencies. So that does not include specific colleges. It would include the technical college system. But we may see some proposals as a result of what comes from that audit. Specific to that, I already mentioned the UW system, higher education in general, I think will continue to be a hot topic directed at the UW system, but again, with various different campuses, programs, that's an easy space for us to kind of get swept up in. So those would be some of the items, in addition to just state budget, general funding for the technical college system as well. I think it's too early to tell, to determine the willingness of, you know, spending money, getting a budget done, where some of those pressure points may be for both sides and both houses too. And we still have a divided government. So, you know, I think we'll see what happens there. Probably by February, we might have a better sense of that temperature and where folks might be at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else in the room? Any questions from the directors online?
No, I had questions about the diversity, equity, inclusion piece, so thank you for answering that.
At various meetings around the state, I've heard a couple of other things being discussed, and I'm just wondering if you have any insights on what is or is not happening with them. One is particularly in some parts of the state further north, there is some discussion about whether it would make sense to merge the local technical college with the local UW system college that may not be doing so well. And perhaps a different route to the same end. There's at least one technical college president that is talking about seeking the right to provide 4-year degrees through the technical colleges. Any of that on your radar screen?
I think to your first point, anything could be on the table, right? UW system has enrollment problems in many of their campuses. And so I think there is an interest, at least from some legislators, in looking at closing campuses, merging, etc. So I guess that's a very high level response that I would say yes, anything's on the table in terms of reducing the footprint, looking at overlapping programs. Certainly, the missions are different, right, with the two organizations. And so that's going to be a debate. And that's why I think it was incredibly important that the system had representation on that study committee. And just as a refresher, legislative study committees are study committees. They're comprised of both elected officials and non-elected officials. The intent of a study committee is to take a meaty topic, a difficult topic, a sometimes politically charged topic, and bring people to the table to kind of dive into that and then make recommendations for solutions. Oftentimes, study committees do receive unanimous reports from that work, not always. I don't believe the report has been released yet for the UW system. I don't think it will be unanimous just based on some of the votes that I've seen. But then from that report, the legislature will determine, as is the case with any policy, to introduce standalone bills. So it could come from a member of that committee. It could come from anyone in the legislature, and then it has to work the process. So anything that comes out of that committee is not a done deal by any means. But I do think, again, looking at footprint, enrollment, and other things, those types of discussions have occurred and are occurring. It's just a question of, of all of these discussions specific to UW system, from governance, funding, bonding, which ones percolate to the top, and if there could be some bipartisan effort, right, to get something over the finish line. Otherwise, what will happen is a lot of bills get passed and they get vetoed. So, it's a big issue. I'm certainly not an expert in all of that policy as it relates, but it's definitely been a big issue in lots of conversations.
Director Baker.
Yeah, as you know, it has been a conversation for 20 years that I know of, and at times very directed and very serious. And it has generally been resisted by the tech college system because we have local governments and the UW is governed at the state level and their budget is controlled by the state legislature. The regions don't control a budget. And that has been a very strong dividing line between the two systems in terms of ability of a college to be responsive locally and the ability of the tech college system to be responsible to our communities. So as I recall, like in years past, that always ended up being the dead end, was on governance. And no matter how the conversation went, we always ended up under them. So it always ended up that the tech college system, there would be one board, not unlike what they do in Minnesota, I believe, where there is one board that governs all of higher ed. And it's controlled at the state level. And so that has met with a lot of resistance from our colleges. So it's interesting to see there's some changes now, at least in some of the smaller colleges as they look at that. So it'll be interesting again to see where the roadblocks happen now.
And I'm happy to share, once the report's final, I can share that. I'll incorporate some of those more details in my actual report when we know at least what's coming out of that committee. They've had a number of meetings. They've been very lengthy. Like I said, for a study committee, you know, typically the goal is to reach some sort of bipartisan committee recommendation, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Any other questions?
As always, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Let's see reports. I missed that committee. That was fun.
Next is the District Student Senate report. Warren Murphy, the Student Senate representative, is not here tonight. And we have instead Brian Moriarty. Why don't you tell us who you are, how you dare to be here instead of Mr. Murphy?
Well, thank you, Chair
And what
Foley,
your
Dr.
report is.
Cruz, and members of the district board, as well as the administration and college community in general. My name is Brian Moriarty. I'm the budget chairperson for the District Student Association for MATC. And as Chair Foley mentioned, while the board representative is unavailable, I have been here representing the board representative to share some updates on his behalf. So with that being said, for the upcoming holidays, there's some recaps from last meeting. DSA, we're partnering with Recruitment to host a toy drive for the West Dallas community. And that drive began earlier this month. It ends in early December, mid-December, allowing prospective students with families to pick out holiday gifts. We hope to impact the community, spread joy, just market the college in general. That's an ongoing effort right now. Another recent DSA project was partnering with public safety and the marketing departments to plan and host a public safety day that was on November 6th of 2024. And DSA was delighted to be involved in that event. They highlighted resources available to students regarding campus safety. As mentioned in the last report as well, we'll be participating in recording updated safety videos, which feature MATC students. And I can't overstate how receptive and excellent public safety and marketing have been. Their staff has been to us. And I know I speak for the whole of DSA when I say we feel heard, we appreciate their commitment and involvement and cooperation. On a lighter note, I'd also like to echo Dr. Cruz's praise of Zanaya Joshua. The MATC Times attended a College Media Association conference in New Orleans recently, and they were awarded a few honorable mentions as well as Zanaya Joshua's Reporter of the Year award. There was a Best Newspaper News Spread that was shared between two members, which is Deallen Davis and Emma Turk. There was also Best News Website Front Page, which went to the MATC Times staff abroad. Lastly, I would also like to thank our voter engagement groups for their efforts and dedication to fostering civic engagement this past month. Each election cycle demands a unique array of tasks to be met and engaged with to educate the public, and it's challenging, rewarding work, and it's worthy of praise. That is all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the bi-monthly report by Milwaukee PBS General Manager Debbie Hamlet. Debbie, come on up.
Hello. Good evening. Some slides there somewhere. So last time I was here, I said we were nominated. So this time I say we won. For the Violent.
Right.
You can't talk about violent films too much, apparently. So we had a really good team and students actually worked on this production too. We have a December 3rd screening at the Oriental Theater, which is essentially sold out at almost 1,000 seats for a pre-screening of this. So we're happy with the way that turned out. Our next project, I think I was trying to beat our turnaround time. Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra and the Violent Femmes was about maybe 7 weeks turnaround. For the next slide is our next production is December 7th, and this is an 18-day turnaround. So I'm super excited about this. I've been looking for a gospel show, I've been talking to our MSO friends, and it records the 7th and we'll broadcast it on the 23rd, but has a 50-person community choir from around Milwaukee. And he brings 14 of his professional singers with him, and he has a small band. So if you just show like 30 seconds or so of this. Oh, no sound. Don't do much
Looks
good.
good
if they're-
though.
The sound
Probably
really makes sense.
We're getting the beat, if nothing else.
If it look good.
What can we do to get some sound?
There was a little microphone in the corner there, right there.
Yeah.
If you click the YouTube, it should open it on YouTube. That might help.
Listen to the student.
Let's try that. again.
Let's sing.
Let's sing.
Yeah,
You're bold.
Come on, put your hands together.
there you go.
Okay.
That's good. If you're not up dancing around with that, something is wrong with you.
I know, because I'm tapping my feet and swerving.
I mean, this guy is so talented. He wrote all the music, all the lyrics. He did some of the arrangements for it, so he won it. So good, we're gonna hear it again. So,
And you're broadcasting this December what?
December 23rd, and I'll have to send around what time that is. I can't wait to see that. It's gonna be just a great show. And you could see it in person if you want to. All you have to do is go to the Bradley Center on the 7th, be in the audience. You can be in the audience for the taping. That'd be fun. And students will also work on that production too. We try to give them the professional kinds of things to work on that they would work on outside of, like if they get their first job. These are the kinds of things that they may work on. This one, rebuilding Milwaukee Trinity Lutheran Church, you might have remembered like about a year or so ago. It burned, the roof fell in. It destroyed a lot of the things inside the church. So we did like a half an hour on how they are rebuilding the church. So if you just play just a little bit of the opening for this. That's good. These were all Wisconsin tradespeople who worked on rebuilding this. It's a really amazing story in terms of how they rebuilt a lot of the items. They just didn't, of course, have any sort of pattern for. So they took as many of the pieces that were burned to warehouses to sort them out, and then to try to make molds from those pieces. It's really fascinating. They did an excellent job. They're still waiting to replace the organ. That's about a $1.5 million fundraising opportunity for them, and they haven't gotten there yet. So, but it is really amazing when you see the work that has gone into just the windows. You know, the roof is of course not going to be wood this time. So they've already replaced all of that, but it is a real testament to trades workers in Wisconsin. And then I'll just wrap up by saying we've got a couple of more. Last slide, sorry. We've got a short digital series that's called Ode to Milwaukee. It's interesting, quirky little pieces about things around Milwaukee that you might not have noticed. Apparently there's a button in the art museum that if you push, it lights up something in a painting somewhere, but you'd have to know that the button is there. Ooh, I did not know that. There's also a lever at the Oriental Theater that if you pull it, you can see the gremlin's eyes light up in the ceiling, which is, you know, things like that was just kind of interesting. The producer for that is Scotty Myers, who's been with us for about 5 years, I believe. And then he's also going to be doing something on movers and shakers. The name says pretty much if it's an invention or historically significant, like Evinrude Motors was here. So we're doing a little bit on that. Jimmy Banks was the first African-American soccer player. Just a lot of different, a really good variety of things that we'll be covering in that. We were accepted into a digital transformation project supported by CPB, which is through the Pointer Institute, very highly respected. The focus is to help us figure out how to grow a digital audience and revenue from that, whether that's a newsletter or social media pieces or some other product or platform. So we're excited to be starting that in January, and that'll be a year-long process. And then we're 32% towards the budget of $8 million. So with that, I will end my report and take any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the directors online? How about in the room? Guess not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the quarterly DEI report. Mr. Rogers.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So in the month of October, I hosted 6 diversity, equity, and inclusion town halls at all of our respective campuses, including a virtual only session. The purpose of these town halls were to update the campus community on progress and to also seek feedback on our ongoing DEI plan and to gather input from campus constituents on how we can continue to move DEI efforts forward at MATC. I also use these town halls as an opportunity to build stronger connections with our students and staff members. Valuable feedback was provided that will be taken into consideration as the work progresses here at MATC. The Restorative Practices Initiative, as Dr. Cruz mentioned, officially launched this fall semester. This semester, we offered 9 opportunities for staff to participate in this initiative. Opportunities range from an orientation training to opportunities to participate in community circles that are aimed at building relationships and trust. And as Dr. Cruz already mentioned, the entire President's Cabinet also participated in the session as well. Through these offerings this semester, we've had approximately 150 employees participate and are now looking to next semester to engage more employees in this important work. On October 24th and 25th, I had the opportunity to attend the WISCOR conference, which stands for the Wisconsin Conference on Race and Ethnicity. This is a conference that was actually requested by students some years ago through the Wisconsin Technical College system. That is the Wisconsin version of the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity, which happens in different locations every year. And so we had the opportunity to attend at the Waukesha campus, Waukesha County Technical College. It was a great opportunity to be with the other 16 technical colleges. The conference provided keynote speakers, a student panel, and breakout sessions that focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our very own Dr. Reggie Parks was selected to lead a breakout session on the impactful work he is doing with the MATC Drive program for single fathers. And actually encouraged Dr. Parks to submit a proposal because we've had several conversations about the work that he's doing, and it was accepted. So he was able to share that the great work happening here at MATC with others. The conference concluded with an opportunity for campuses to create action plans to focus on until the next WISCOR conference, which will be happening next year. As Dr. Cruz already mentioned, on November 12th, the Black Excellence Leadership Alliance hosted the fireside chat conversation with our new president. One thing I think with the employee affinity groups is a great opportunity to engage our employees and to build a sense of community. And so I think it's great that these type of events are happening and will continue to happen in the future. On Wednesday, November 13th, we hosted MATC alum Clarissa Friday in honor of Native American Heritage Month. Clarissa gave a presentation on her photography work that captures and highlights Native and Indigenous people here in Wisconsin. Guests in person and online were able to hear her personal journey and learn the backstory to many of her powerful images that are also displayed around our campus. We will continue to have ongoing conversations about engaging our Native students and employees in the future. On November 15th, 15 staff members, including myself, completed a student success data analytics program provided online by California State University. We participated in 7 seminars from August to November. Felt like I was a college student again. And we had the opportunity to gain strategy on how to close equity gaps for historically underrepresented students. The culmination of this project is a data action project that will work to close equity gaps at MATC. And so we compiled a list of ideas and things that we could potentially focus on here at MATC. And the project that we actually selected to focus on was submitted by Joe Tuttle, who is a retention coach. And so we will be focusing on closing equity gaps for Black students at MATC. We have identified 7 courses with the highest enrolled courses with the highest equity gaps. And so we're now working to create a replicable framework that we can use to work collaboratively with instructors to close equity gaps in these courses. So in the future, we do plan to share with the campus a presentation where we'll be able to share what we learned, but also present some of those other ideas that we came up with outside of the project that we actually selected. The DEI division welcomes the Hispanic Organization for Leadership and Achievement, OLAP. This is a new employee affinity group that will be under the leadership of Arlene Garcia Novelli, Ramiro Quintana Romero, and Rebecca Arcos Piedra. OLA aims to empower Hispanic, Latino, and Latina faculty, staff, and administrators by creating a supportive, inclusive space for connection and growth, celebrate diversity, and provide networking, mentorship, and professional development opportunities. Student Accommodation Services held their annual Jumpstart workshop this summer, which provides new students in need of accommodations a jumpstart on their first semester. The 2-day workshop consisted of partnering with the Career Hub, library counseling, tutoring, student resources, the Student Resource Center, retention coaching, all in an effort to help students be successful at MATC. On October 30th, 2024, the Student Accommodation Services held a virtual presentation that helped MATC faculty and staff understand how students can apply for accommodations, what that approval process looks like, and what type of assistance a student can be provided with once they have expressed need that they have an accommodation. And so each person in the accommodation staff presented on their department. Sign language interpretation was provided for attendees who were deaf or hard of hearing. Transition Days provides an opportunity for MATC and the district high schools that we serve to assist students with disabilities in their transition to MATC. The Student Accommodations Office, they provide these events each semester, and the events this semester were held on November 19th and 20th. It consisted of a group presentation from recruitment and retention coaching as well. And the spring transition days will be offered April 3rd and 4th of 2025. As a follow-up to MATC Day, we had a very powerful speaker, Dr. Terrell Strayhorn. The DEI division is now hosting a book club to read Dr. Strayhorn's book, College Students' Sense of Belonging. We had approximately 40 staff members that received the book and have attended the book club session where we're discussing the book and discussing practical strategies to increase the sense of belonging for our students here at MATC. And then finally, November 18th through the 22nd was International Education Week. Dr. Cruz already mentioned the citizenship event that happened. And in addition to that, the DEI division hosted a student experience panel on Wednesday, November 20th, and we highlighted 4 of our international students who shared about their home countries and ways in which we can support international students here at MATC. This concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions in the room? Director Burris.
I have 3, is that okay?
I'm sorry?
I have 3, is that okay?
Sure.
You said that there were 7 courses that you guys were looking at. Are you able to send those to us? I'm just curious as to what they were, and I don't want to put you on the spot to read them all.
Yeah, Yeah, and I intentionally didn't share because like the list of the courses, because we want to make sure we work with the faculty, because some may not be aware that these equity gaps exist. But we've used like the student, we have a dashboard that shows like courses and things of that nature. So this was our own data that we looked at, but we can definitely share that.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to what it was. You said the restorative justice group met like 9 opportunities to
Mhm.
meet. Are you guys like satisfied with that? Can't recall at this point how long that contract was for. I think the original
a year.
proposal was
For a year.
3.
That's a year.
I'm sorry.
1 year.
Yeah, the original proposal
Oh, yeah,
was 3
original,
years, but it's 1 year.
It's 1 year now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 1. I thought it was longer than that. I felt like I'd seen something like 5 years or something that was originally presented. Like lengthy. But we end up going with 1. Are you guys kind of like satisfied with the outcomes in these meetings and the participation?
Yeah, I think so far things have been going well, and I've really tried to connect with a lot of staff that have participated in the initiative, and so far I've heard good feedback from employees that have participated. So we're really trying to gather that information from employees to have testimonials so that other people will want to participate in the future. I know some people may not know what restorative practices is about, and so if they hear from other employees that have participated, we're hopeful that more people will want to participate in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's it, to be honest. Oh, no, how are affinity groups started here on campus? Like,
Yeah, so it really has to come from the employees.
Mhm.
And so they reach out and express that they have an interest to start an employee affinity group. We have an application process that they have to fill out, and just some requirements for the group to be established. And then once the paperwork and everything is filled out, then they become an officially recognized group through the college. And then the DI division provides support, funding, and programmatic support for the different things that they want to do.
what office does the application have to go to?
The DI division, the
Okay.
DI office.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions in the room? Any questions from the directors online?
No.
Thank you very much. Next is the non-construction procurement report for Amore. Welcome.
Evening, everyone. So I did submit a report that's part of your documents that you have today. And as usual, it has 2 different parts where I have to do the WTCS requirements, where I go over the spend from last year and see if there are any other opportunities to save some money or to fill some holes or gaps that we have here at MATC. And then also the second part, of course, is the diversity for the non-construction procurement. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Of course.
I hate to let my colleagues down, you know. It just, you know, I noticed that our hub participation is going up, you know, over the last several years. Do we have a goal in that? You know, that we want to see a certain percentage, and how do we feel we're doing it?
Well, you know, the state goes for 5%. And of course, we've all agreed, no, we want to do more than that. So our goal really is just to try to increase each year.
Okay.
Never happy.
Any other questions in the room? Any questions from the directors online? Well, that was pretty simple.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for coming.
Try my best.
Next is the construction services report. Chris Johnson, please come on up. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm here to report on the breakout of strictly construction funds that were achieved through hub contracting this past year. Our total amount was 22.6%. That's above the goal that we have stated in our contract documents of 20%. So
Any questions? Any questions from the group online? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're just sailing along.
Next is the Healthcare Pathway Capstone Program for Nursing. Eric Gass and Annette. Is it Rise or Rees?
Rees.
Rees. Thank
Good
you.
evening, directors.
Welcome.
I am Dr. Annette Rees, and I'm the Nursing Program Director.
And I'm Dr. Eric Goss, the Dean of the Healthcare Pathway.
I have prepared for you a brief overview of the assessment that you guys already received. Due to time constraints, though, I'm wondering if you wanted to go directly to questions or if you wanted me to go through the summary.
I'm happy to go directly to questions unless there's somebody who needs us to go through, wants us to go through the summary. Anyone online? Okay, let's go to questions.
Mr. Chair, I know that there are people watching who may not be as familiar.
Okay, that's a good point. Why don't you give us the summary?
Absolutely. I have a slideshow prepared. So if you want to just go to the first slide. Thank you. In August of this year, I am very happy to report that we had a very, very successful site visit from our accreditors. There was absolutely no findings of concerns. In fact, we got 2 commendations of our strengths for student support. Our next accreditation visit will be in 8 years. And our nursing program has initiated some discussions with some prominent healthcare systems, including Freighter Healthcare and Aurora Healthcare, and we're exploring potential apprenticeship opportunities. As Director Pence had alluded to, that seems to be a hot topic right now. And right now they're further in discussions with those. The practical nursing program has experienced a significant increase in our enrollment. We are shifting from ADN program being a predominant factor to now our LPN program up and coming. So that's exciting. We're ready and able to shift our gears a little bit to accept more students into our PN program. We're thinking that the reason for this shift is because of our Chakota scholarship program, which is exciting, and some of our other scholarship programs for the students that are entering into those practical nursing programs. If you want to go to the next slide for me, thank you. Our current enrollment facilities, they are meeting our basic student needs. However, they don't really fully align with the evolving demands of the way nursing education standards and teaching is being taught now. And so that we are in discussions and talks with administration on ways that we can foster professional collaboration, reflect the diverse environment where nursing space is needed, and collaborate possibly with other pathways and programs here at MATC. And looking to maybe get a state-of-the-art new facility. So we're early in our discussions with that right now. And then lastly, all of our State Board of Nursing NCLEX pass rates have been really good. There's no concerns there. And our latest WTCS survey shows that the vast majority of the MATC nursing graduates are very satisfied with their workforce preparation. This further affirms the strength of MAT's nursing program and its alignment with workforce demands and preparing our graduates for success. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions in the room? Director Burks?
Thank you. So I see that we are, first off, congratulations on your visit.
Thank you.
We know that there are predatory colleges coming in, and do you guys see that as being like a challenge for students, even in clinicals and things?
Yes and no.
Okay.
One, we're all talking about a certain Arizona college. And we're not really comparing apples to apples. because of the price difference. They are very, very expensive. And we are the more affordable option. So it's not really comparing those apples to apples to the student population that we're receiving. However, we do not have a lot of clinical placements, especially as some of our healthcare systems are closing their units. They're closing hospitals. We all just heard in the news about St. Francis down the road. And so, yes, we are in competition for clinical spaces. I am on the executive committee for a new, which is a nursing workforce here in Wisconsin, nursing educator workforce in Wisconsin. And yeah, we're talking a lot about it, but we have to stay within our regulations of what we can and cannot do.
Director Pence.
One thing you had mentioned before, that at the ACCT, there was a lot of talk about four-year degrees, and nursing was a big area that transitioned into four-year degrees at community colleges, just for what it's worth, so.
Well, and we're seeing that path as Dr. Reese mentioned, with the sharp increase in LPN students. So you start off with your nursing assistant, then you come and do 1 year with your practical nursing, which is now, can be covered by Shakota. You enter the workforce and you come back, and we have what's called the bridge program. It's a second year LPN to RN progression, where you take your clinicals and that you would take for an RN. And we have agreements with dozens of four-year colleges. But the difference between the bachelor's of science in nursing and the associate degree in nursing, all the clinical and medical knowledge is the same. It's general ed, it's sociology, it's management courses, it's like your minor, but you're gonna get the same clinical and lab experience at MATC as you're gonna get at any four-year school in the state of Wisconsin.
Let me follow up on a couple of things there. When you say we are in competition with this Arizona entity and that they're very much more expensive, what is it that draws students away from us to them in those circumstances?
I can't speak for individual students. I can only speculate. I think they think because it's a private college that they would be getting a better education. I don't know how to get the word out there, that MATC has an extremely robust, I'm so proud of our program, I really am. And we have excellent, fabulous faculty. I can't be more proud of them, that teach here. And our program, like I said, when we went through our accreditation, was just glowing, absolutely glowing. So we are exceeding the standards set forth by our accrediting bodies. So students may think that they're getting a better education just because it's got that private label on it, right?
But it's also, I think, the rigor or lack thereof that you see at some of these for-profit colleges.
Yes.
And that's my concern.
It's easier?
Yes.
Just easier to get through the.
Just to get in, just to get in. I haven't looked at
How
their,
much easier could it be than getting in here?
Right?
well, because we do,
Honestly, MATC does have a very rigorous nursing.
we have
program.
standards for minimum grade point average completion,
And
of
it's
certain courses at the other.
Okay.
So, I mean,
And the benefits of students, to be honest.
our nurses, as you can see in the data, that graduate pass their tests at a much higher rate than most nursing schools in the state of Wisconsin, 2 or 4 year. So, you know, a lot of students might start off and taking in the gen eds, but we have rigor in that. You must really show that you can do anatomy and physiology. You must show that you can do psychology and these soft skills that we want to teach in the sociology classes. So I don't know what their curriculum looks like. I know it's a 3-year advance to a bachelor's of science in nursing, and we're not competing with that. We're not competing with bachelor's of science in nursing. I would take our associate degrees nurses up against any in the state and the exams speak for themselves. We're always in the top 5.
I love it.
I mean, when you were explaining earlier why we're different. I mean, you almost wrote the commercial for us. Honestly, I mean, I think that's how we should be marketing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, if I
Director
could,
Baker?
so I don't believe the Arizona College of Nursing is open yet, is that
No.
correct? Right, so we
They are
don't know
accepting students in January.
in January, okay. There was another one, Everest College, was that it?
That was up the road here.
Right, which literally failed.
Yeah, there's always gonna be one. There's always
Right.
gonna be one.
And I do think we stand up very well. Our nursing program always does. So we don't actually know. I think the heart of the competition thing that I heard was of concern is that we're competing for these spots
Clinical
for the
spots.
clinical.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah,
Which
and
brings
that's
us
what
back
he asked
to-
and you responded to, and I think that's the real, that's
Right.
kind of the challenge, because these guys are gonna be out there going, hey, we're the new guys in town and we need clinicals. And there's not enough of those already out there for us.
And that brings us back to our simulation. We can supplement some of our clinical rotations with high fidelity simulation. But our high fidelity simulation lab right now is lacking. You're seeing what some of these other WTCS colleges have and what they're building. And that's why we're talking with administration right now on ways that we can build a new state of the art and be more competitive with some of these four-year private colleges and showing their flashy stuff of what they have.
Simulation centers, virtual reality centers, so we've been working on that. We know how much they cost. We know what infrastructure is needed to make those happen, and we're actively working on making that happen in the next year or two.
What would you need to make it happen in the next year rather than the next two?
Money.
Is it?
I'm
afraid it was like.
We have land out in West Allis.
Yeah,
Need
we
all
would
those
need a better simulation center, and that's gonna cost big dollars. So how we do that, that's above my pay scale.
I've got one other question I want to follow up on. The satisfaction survey was very satisfied. I can't remember what the bottom two were, but.
Yeah, it was somewhat satisfied and dissatisfied.
Right, okay. So the numbers I recall that were very satisfied was basically half. And my question is, what are we doing follow-up with the other half? And are we asking those that gave us a very negative
Right.
evaluation? But more importantly, I think, are we talking to those who are in the somewhat satisfied category to find out what we could do better?
That is very interesting, and thank you for bringing that up. First of all, it was only 7% that was dissatisfied. And 14% that was below that very satisfied level. I have started a new educational assistant who is doing some outreach for us right now for our NCLEX. So this is like a coaching for students to take their NCLEX and what can I do and how can I help? And, oh, I see you passed, congratulations. Part of her outreach is also going to be looking at that survey so we can get better data going. And what could we have done better for you? How could we have better prepared you? Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions in the room? Director Morrow-McCundy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two-part question. One, when someone goes to Arizona College or an Everett College and the institution fails, and then they weren't accredited in the first place. So then they have to come to a fine institution like MATC, and they basically have to start over. However, their student aid was swallowed up by this other institution. And so they have used some of it. And so they may not necessarily be able to complete that process because they won't have enough of the funds left over. And maybe this is a conversation with the administration, et cetera. How do we accommodate those students who were grifted, if you will, out of their
Right.
opportunity?
I'm very happy to report that right now we have 150 students that are receiving some form of financial aid from our scholarship programs. So either Chakota or the Freighter Scholarship.
MEND.
MEND, which is an Employ Milwaukee scholarship program, so that's part of that,
Yeah,
and then.
our goal is to get as many of those students into those last dollar scholarships as possible after they, yeah, so. And then again, as we mentioned, the Shakota is clearly driving the tech diploma enrollment, so students are seeing that, the word is out. And I get probably 2 calls a week from students asking about, I need one more semester, I'm running out of aid. And we work with, whether it be the FAST Fund, Local 212, someplace to get those students to the finish line without having to deal with federal financial aid if we can.
Okay. Great. My second question is, it may or may not be known that nursing students, it is a very challenging field, not only from a core standpoint, but from a mental health standpoint. It can be very isolating. You're doing a lot of work, and it's very taxing for you personally. You're in these cohorts of people, and if you're a returning student, you may be older than some of your classmates. You can't find some kind of camaraderie with people who may be younger than you, et cetera. How are we addressing a lot of the issues that may arise due through self-isolation, depression, things of that nature, people developing kind of habits that they don't necessarily we don't think they need for themselves, and they're caring for other people. It's one of those careers where you care for other people, so you care less for yourself. And so how are we making sure that we are addressing these kinds of needs amongst our students and they're not, falling through the cracks?
Right. So I have to say that we have small class sizes. And part of the success of our students are those smaller class sizes. Our faculty are very hands-on with our students and very eye-on with all of our students. I receive reports daily about this student or that student who might be having challenges or difficulties outside of academia. Our faculty just went to a funeral for one of our students who unfortunately her daughter died. And so we're rallying and doing all kinds of things. Our Sunshine Club went out and bought a whole bunch of stuff for that student. Not only that, but then we also have our Student Nurses Association and our Future Black Nurse Leaders Student Nurses Association, which helps rally our students. And nurses are very tight. And so that starts in college. And so the nursing students themselves bring each other along, kicking and screaming if they have to, but they're bringing them along with them. And so they're very tight. We also have a great coaching and advising staff that we reach out to. And MATC itself has a great program for mental health.
And our MEND grant, just to mention too, it's with Employ Milwaukee. So to get funding for that, you have to qualify for Employ Milwaukee's services about education or employment. And we've been able to hire 2 highly trained and retired professionals to work, a retired instructor and a retired nurse, to help case manage these students, many of which are first generation bilingual or Spanish speaking students coming from our CNA bilingual program into the nursing program. So as Dr. It's in its second year, and as Dr. Reese mentioned, it's new, but we've already put 42 students fully covered in tuition into the nursing program, with these 2 providing wraparound case management just for those Employ Milwaukee students. So they are targeting that small group to make sure that they get through either the 1 year or the 2-year nursing program.
That's amazing.
You still having any challenges with the Department of Safety and Professional Services for licensing?
No, that's been cleared up.
Yeah.
The state did a great job in getting that squared away.
Yeah, great. Awesome. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions from, I see Dr. Najib has a hand up.
Yes. The competition for clinicals is a real thing. And as you know, no RN or LPN can graduate unless they complete their clinicals. And my understanding from your slides that a significant percentage of the students, they elect to work outside the hospital, not inside the hospital. And I think there's opportunity here to solve the issue, is to look for doctors and clinics who are independent, and they may be willing to really host those students as outpatient. I'm a vice president of the Independent Physician Network, which they have 1,000 independent physicians. And also I'm on the IPW, Independent Physician of Wisconsin. We have about 30 clinics and all kind of specialty, GI, pulmonary, cardiology, so many things. And always we hire nurses, and we can have them as really trainee. Right now, I have nurse practitioner and physician assistant student, at least 2 or 3 a year. They rotate with me and be certified as a regular rotation instead of doing it in the hospital. And they tell me they learn way more hands-on things with us as independent physician, because we do that's a real life kind of clinic, more even than the hospital. So I don't know if those if we can have those students who wants to really restrict their practice as outside the hospital to tap in the independent practices.
That is a wonderful suggestion. Is there any way I can connect you to our clinical coordinator?
Sure. I can help in that, sure.
Thank you, Dr. Najib. Anyone else online?
No, thank you.
One more time in the room. Any last questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving, everyone.
Likewise.
New business topics. Anyone online with any new business to bring forward?
None here.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Reminder on future events: December 14th, winter commencement, 11 o'clock, Pfizer Forum, December 17th, GED, HSED graduation, 6 p.m. at Cooley Auditorium, December 17th, MATC District Board Association meeting, 4 p.m. in this very room. Mark it on your calendar. We do have a closed session. I'm going to invite a motion to go into closed session, and then I think we should take about a 10-minute break.
Yep.
And we'll go from there. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I do have such a motion. I move that the district board convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes to discuss item 11A, discussion and update on personnel matters. The board may reconvene into open session to take action on matters discussed in closed session under item 11.A if necessary.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have to do a roll call vote on this motion.
Director Owen Moore,
Aye.
Director Pence,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Burris,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
Director Morno Clinton.
Aye.
Director Najib,
Aye.
Director Fullen.
Aye. We are in closed session. We are in recess for 10 minutes. Let's be back here at 25:07.
Yeah, we're sending 2 people. You're the next.